if it's consensual, I want to say this. It's a very thin line, and right now it's like a whole thing with the Me Too movement about like where does consent begin, right? And what is a power dynamic, and what makes like, you know, what's the influence?
And to what point do you need a verbal yes or no? Because that's what's delicate.
Exactly. Yeah. But like, okay, scenario, right? You go on this yacht and you're just like, hey, this is photography. We're going to invite you to this yacht. There's nothing sexual, like there's nothing, and you don't know about it because you're a young guy. And I was in that situation, you know, and you go on these parties or whatever, and I'll be honest with you, I also didn't know, like I was never around gay men, you know? And as a straight guy, I was like, I didn't know, you know, the intricacies of this world because I come from such a small town in Germany.
Yeah, so it's a very foreign culture.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm in, you know, and they put you on a yacht or something, and it's agreed. It's just like a trip, you know, you're taking a trip. And I was always like,
you get a little bit dizzy on a yacht too.
Yeah. You know, and I'm very,
we just don't want to choke.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm eternally optimistic. I'm always like, I believe in the good of people because I grew up in such a small, wholesome town. So I'm like, oh, this guy.
And they also do take advantage of that. I mean, they really do.
And that's where I think the fucked up thing comes in. And then if a guy.
They wouldn't do the same thing to an American.
That's what I mean.
Born and raised in New York City.
When you use the power dynamic, knowing somebody's insecure, 18, fresh off the boat, technically, right? Doesn't know the culture, has never done modeling, doesn't know how this fucking world works. And then they put you in a situation where, hey, you know, do you want to do this? And they know that you won't say no. That is the fucked up thing. And once you get a hint, and I think consent, what does it mean, right? Because even if I was in a situation like when the guy raped me and there was drugs involved and stuff, so I couldn't move. But like you are in a situation and you think that you'd be like, oh no, I don't want to do this, and you walk off. I fucking froze. So that's what you mean. The consent is so important, like having a clear yes.
Yeah.
Especially when they're young. If it's a guy who's like over 25, it's a way different story. What bothers me is these guys who know the power dynamics and know how insecure people are and how naive and how they won't say no, and they use it to their advantage to then make them do things they're going to regret later.
And the underage thing too, as well. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you might be 18, critical. But even if you're 20 and you're new to the US, it's different than when you're 25 have found yourself as if you, other than being new to the industry. That's just really fucked up. And I don't know, the consent thing is really, that's tricky, man. I see it. And I know a lot of like, you know, Harvey Weinstein, they talk about it, and a lot of people I know, I'm sure they knew about it. And there's the other flip side where people then complain about it 15 years later if their career is not where they wanted it to be. And then they're like, they go back and they're like, okay, actually this was rape, you know? It's like a whole...
Oh, yes. I mean...